Welcome to Wannabe Clutter Free, formerly Wannabe Minimalist, the podcast for busy families who are tired of the chaos, fed up with being overwhelmed, and ready to enjoy life again. Each week, we talk about how to let go of the clutter so that you can focus on the things that actually matter. And it's not just physical clutter. We talk about the mental and emotional stuff too, because if it's holding you back, it's time to ditch it. I share what I've done in my own life to declutter, organize, and calm the chaos, but you won't just hear it from me. There are amazing guests too. It's practical, doable, and simple for those of us that want to be clutter-free. Well, hey there, my friend. Welcome back to the show. My name is Deanna Yates, and you are listening to episode 245 of the Wannabe Clutter-Free podcast. And today we are talking about something a little different, something a little deeper. What if I told you that decluttering your space is more than just tidying up? That it's actually an act of self-love, a way of showing your self-care, respect, and even kindness. I know. The decluttering doesn't always feel like self-love, especially when you are knee-deep in piles of stuff, wondering where it all came from. But stick with me because today we are diving into the science behind why clearing your space clears your mind, why letting go of clutter is emotionally freeing, and how living with less can actually be a love letter to yourself. And we're going to talk about some fascinating research. Don't worry, I'm going to skip that UCLA study that I always talk about because I know I talk about it a lot, because we also have some other research that we can point to, and I have some real life stories and practical tips to help you shift your mindset around decluttering. So whether you're folding laundry, commuting, or sneaking in a moment of peace in your chaotic day, let's talk about how you can love yourself a little more by letting go of what's weighing you down. But before we jump into it, I want to thank you for joining me today. I know you have a lot of choices on what podcast to listen to and what information to get, and I just appreciate that you are here and make this podcast part of your weekly routine. So thank you so much. And I would absolutely love to know what you think of the show, this episode, or if you have any questions. You can reach me on Instagram. I am at Wannabe Clutter Free, or you can come on over to Facebook and join our private community over there. It's the Wannabe Minimalist Family Group, and we would love to chat with you. And then if you want to get show notes, don't forget you can grab those at wannabeclutterfree.com/245. Again, wannabeclutterfree.com/245. All right, with that, we are going to start with the science behind why clutter stresses us out. But I'm actually going to detour just a hot second because I do have to mention that life doesn't always go as planned. And I actually had to re-record this episode a couple days after I recorded it. I actually recorded it on Valentine's Day afternoon, like evening time, before we got into our family celebration of Valentine's Day and a nice dinner with my husband and daughter. I recorded this episode and I was getting ready because we went out of town for a few days and I wanted it all ready so it was all geared up for the Wednesday release. And unfortunately, it didn't work. There was a glitch. So I had this whole podcast all recorded and I really liked it. I'm really sad about it. But I actually had done this. I decluttered on Valentine's Day. I know. You guys are probably thinking, this woman is crazy. Why am I listening to this? Well, because I took this advice to heart. I said to myself, my office area was kind of a mess. We are in the process of redecorating it. So I painted the wall behind me. I've put up some shelves, and now I was hoping to show it off a little bit on this podcast episode, but that's not going to happen because right now I am sitting in an Airbnb and I have just showered after a long day of skiing. And so you're not seeing me. This is just going to be an audio only episode, but I will still show off the background. I'm hoping to get that posted on Instagram soon so you can see the reveal. I know I did post the color that we chose and everything, and I'm really excited about it. But we're also in our dining room, we're installing Billy bookcases, the IKEA ones, to make them look built in. And I'm really excited to show that off to you. It has been a lot of work. It's been quite a labor of love, but it meant that my office was a hot disaster. Everything that was in that dining room, we had a dresser that we were using as a credenza. So I had 6 drawers that had things in them. and then my whole office area that I'm working on getting better systems around, because we've shifted things around. We moved the office and the dining room, we flip-flopped them, and I love the new space. I absolutely love it. And the thing I tell you to do is don't go out and buy a bunch of things until you know you love it, right? Until you know you love how the things are functioning. And I absolutely love how my desk functions in this space. I have windows and daylight and natural light coming in, and I absolutely love it. So now we're working on redoing it. Okay, I promise I will get back to the self-love thing. You have not lost me. But what happened was it was a mess, and it was really hard for me to feel creative and be excited about working in this space that had just stuff everywhere. So I have recorded a reel of me decluttering. It took me a few hours. So I know I always say to start small, but if you have energy, go for it and do it. And if you have the time when you can do that, that's fine too. I had a little extra time on Friday. I had finished up some work projects. Our daughter was in school. So I took the time and I just thought of it as this act of self-love to myself. And can I tell you how much I love the look and feel of the new office area? It's great. And I'm still going to do some things to it. I'm still going to, increase it a little bit. It needs some more shelving, and not shelving, drawers. It needs drawers. And so I will be putting in some more drawers and things like that so that it can be organized. But I did declutter and sorted through and put things to where they should be going. And so I'm really excited to have that together to keep so that all the systems that I have in place will run. And so I wanted to just say that I am walking this walk, right? I don't just tell you to do it, I do it too. And it really was an act of self-love for me. So let's get into that science, right? Because we know that a lot of people think like, oh, I just prefer a little mess, right? Or I work fine in some chaos. Actually, I work better and I feel more free when there's, when I've got all the papers around me and it's fine. I just like the chaos, right? Have you ever said that to yourself? Or have you ever thought that? Or I'm sure you've heard it, right? But the truth is that clutter affects us in ways we might not even realize. There is a fascinating study from Princeton Neuroscience Institute that found that clutter, specifically visual clutter, so the stuff that I was dealing with in my office, competes for our attention, making it harder to concentrate. Basically, our brains are wired to process everything in our environment, even when we are not consciously focusing on it. I mean, have you done this, right? Picture this. You sit down to work, but on your desk, there are unopened mail envelopes, or your kid's school permission slip is sitting right there. There's an empty coffee mug, maybe a few receipts, maybe that book that you keep meaning to read, right? It's sitting right there, kind of just nagging at you and egging you on. And even though you are trying to focus on your computer screen, your brain is subconsciously processing all of this stuff. It is trying to make order. It is trying to keep you safe and keep you orderly. And it's saying like, oh, you've got all this stuff, right? And then all these feelings are coming up. It's like having 50 tabs open on your computer. Your brain is jumping from one thing to another, even if you don't realize it. And when you are doing that with work too, if you're never fully finishing something, you actually lose so much time in between that transition when you are moving from one task to another. So I want us to know that this is leading to cognitive overload, which is just a fancy way of saying your brain gets tired faster. It means we're not able to make as many decisions. It means we just get tired. Our brain is worn out. It means we might snap at our family a little bit sooner than, we'd like to admit. Maybe we are getting hangry because we're not doing the things we need to do. But your brain is just processing. And have you ever had that moment of just gosh, when I was younger, I used to be able to remember things, or, I didn't feel so flighty, or I just didn't feel like my brain was so foggy. A lot of that could be attributed to visual clutter if you have a lot of things that are vying for your attention. Now, as we're going through this, you might be thinking, okay, but how does this relate to self-love? Well, think about how you feel when you walk into a clean, clutter-free space, right? That feeling, just a deep exhale. Your brain isn't bombarded by distractions, and suddenly you can focus better. You feel calmer and everything feels a little more manageable. We stayed in an Airbnb. Like I said, I'm recording this from an Airbnb. And the only thing in this room are a bed, a side chair, a side table, and then hangers in the closet. I mean, the bed has pillows and linens and things like that. And there is actually one decorative thing on the wall, but it's really Spartan and it is clutter-free and it's clean. And I'm not saying that we need to live in a Spartan world, obviously not, because we come in and we brought in our belongings, right? So now our clothes are here and our toiletries are here. Of course, there's towels in the bathroom and things like that. All the things you absolutely need. There's stuff in the kitchen for us to cook. But it's not all of that excess. It's not extra stuff. And it's just that breath of fresh air. It is only what we need for this weekend. And so, right, I had said before, you can focus better. You feel calmer. Everything feels a little more manageable. And this is why decluttering is a love letter to yourself. It's a way of reducing mental overload, right? It's reducing that mental load. It's giving yourself more clarity and creating an environment that supports your well-being. And here's something I want you to think about. If you had a loved one who was feeling overwhelmed, let's say maybe your best friend, maybe your partner, maybe even your child, right? What would you do for them? Well, you'd probably say, hey, let's make things a little easier for you. Let's take some of these things off of your plate. Let's clear away some of this stress. Well, you deserve that too. You deserve an environment that supports you rather than one that constantly demands energy from you. And a listener of mine, her name's Sarah, she told me that before she started decluttering, she felt constantly drained, like she was always playing catch up. She was never really able to relax. But when she started clearing her space, she realized something. She realized that she wasn't just making room in her home, she was making room inside, like in her mind. And that is what I want you to experience too. So let's start small. What's one tiny area you can declutter today? Not your whole house, not even a room, not like I did, right? Unless you have hours to spend, then go for it. But if you don't, if you're sitting here going, I do not have time for this, and I'm about to turn off this podcast, please don't. Please just do one tiny area. And just that one tiny area is going to make you feel a little lighter. Now, the caveat is here, I want you to continue doing these little areas. Don't just do one little tiny area and then never declutter anything else again. That's not going to help us, right? Because I guarantee you there is an influx of stuff coming into your home on a regular basis. So we do need to do this pretty frequently, but you don't have to do it all at once. You can do one tiny area. Maybe if I would have just done my side of the desk, that would have been a tiny area that would have helped me. And then tomorrow I could have done my daughter's side of the desk because we actually share a desk in the living area. And then I could have done, the bin that I had cleared out from the dresser that we sold. So then there's a bin that I just put everything in there because people came and picked up the dresser. I had like 20 minutes. And so I just wanted to get it cleared out. And so I did that. So that could be another tiny declutter, right? I didn't have to do it all at once. I had the option to, but if I had just one tiny area, I still would have felt better and it still would have felt good. And I still would have accomplished a lot. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the emotional weight of clutter and letting go with love. Have you ever felt like your metabolism just isn't what it used to be? That's exactly where I found myself recently, which is why I'm turning to an innovative tool that's helping me understand how my body processes food. Lumen. It's like having a metabolic coach right in your hand. Lumen is the world's first device that measures your metabolism through your breath in real time. Just by breathing into Lumen each morning, it tells me whether I'm burning fats or carbs. And this insight helps me adjust my daily nutrition and fitness routines to optimize my metabolic health. And the benefits? Well, they're huge because your metabolism is at the center of everything your body does. It's not just about weight management. It's about feeling energized and ready to tackle whatever comes my way. Lumen also adapts its recommendations if you're going through hormonal changes like menopause, helping manage those pesky cravings and maintain your energy. What's really impressive is how Lumen tailors your nutrition for the day based on your morning breath analysis. It even gives you feedback before and after workouts and meals, so you know how to keep your metabolism firing effectively. Take the next step to improving your health today. Go to lumen.me/wanna to get 20% off your Lumen. That's LUMEN.me/wanna for 20% off your purchase. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. Hey there. Did you know that while we spend about 90% of our time indoors, the air inside our homes can be up to 100 times more polluted than the air outside? That's why I'm thrilled to share something that's made a huge difference in my family's life, Air Doctor. Air Doctor is not just any air purifier. It's an award-winning system that eliminates 99.99% of airborne contaminants like allergens, viruses, and even smoke. What really sets Air Doctor apart is their Ultra HEPA filter that captures particles 100 times smaller than what a standard HEPA filter can manage. Imagine less sneezing, fewer allergies, and just cleaner, fresher air around your little ones. I've noticed a big difference in our home. No more worrying about what's lingering in the air, especially during allergy season or when the kids bring home germs. And I'm not alone. 98% of Air Doctor users say they feel their home's air is cleaner and safer. So if you're looking to breathe easier and make your home a healthier space for your family, check out Air Doctor. Head to airdoctorpro.com and use promo code WANNA to get up to $300 off today. Air Doctor comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee plus a 3-year warranty, an $84 value for free. Get this exclusive podcast-only offer now at airdoctorpro.com. airdoctorpro.com using promo code WANNA. All right, so we've talked about the mental weight of clutter, but now let's talk about the emotional weight because honestly, this is the hardest part for most people. We don't just hold on to things, we hold on to stories, expectations, emotions. Let's take clothes, for example. I bet most of us have at least one item of clothing in our closet that we never wear, but we can't seem to let go of it. Maybe it's a pair of jeans that used to fit before you had kids, and every time you see them, you feel a little pang of guilt. Maybe it's a dress you bought for a wedding that reminds you of a different time in your life and you feel sad when you see it. Or maybe it's a gift someone gave you that you never liked, but you feel really bad about getting rid of it. Well, this is where the science comes in. This is something called the endowment effect, which basically means that we tend to overvalue things just because we own them. Now, a study published in the Journal of Consumer Psychology found that when people were asked to price objects they owned versus objects they didn't own, they consistently placed a higher value on the ones that they already had, simply because they were theirs. But vice versa, if you ask someone to say what they would pay for that object, like something that they didn't own. So let's say a mug. I think this was the study. It was a mug, and if just this random mug, just a white mug that you could just find, very plain. If you were to buy this mug that you didn't own already, how much would you spend on this? And it was a much lower amount. I think it was just like maybe even around $2. Don't quote me on that. I do need to look that study up again. But then the people that owned the mug and tried to sell it, they were like $4 to $5. It was like twice as much. So we have to think about this, that we feel connected to things just because we own them. And so that is what the endowment effect is. So if you ever looked at something and thought, I can't let go of this, I paid good money for it, or it would feel wrong to get rid of this, that's the endowment effect at work. And it is okay. It's just sometimes nice to be able to put the scientific idea behind the product or the item, right? But here's the thing. If something isn't serving you, keeping it doesn't undo the past. So holding on to a dress you never wear doesn't bring back the version of you who bought it. It just clutters up your closet. And it makes you feel bad every time you see it. Keeping an old textbook doesn't make your college tuition feel more worth it. Holding on to sentimental clutter out of guilt doesn't actually honor the memory. It just keeps you stuck. So here's what I want you to ask yourself. If I were starting fresh today, would I choose to bring this into my life? For instance, in my closet, if I got to have an entire shopping spree, would this be a piece that I would bring into my closet? Right? If I were buying things new today, is this a piece I would bring into my life? And if the answer is no, well, maybe it's time to let it go. But let's let it go with gratitude, not guilt. Thanking it for the part it played in our life, for the things it allowed us to do for that moment in time that we owned it. Not for, oh gosh, I can't believe I don't fit into that anymore, or what a waste of money, or, anything like that. Let go with gratitude and thank it for what it gave you at the time in your life that you needed it. All right, this next section, we're going to talk about organizing. And there's a difference between decluttering and organizing. Decluttering is letting go of what you don't need, and organizing is about intentionally choosing how you want to live. A study in the Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin found that people who described their homes as cluttered had higher levels of cortisol, which is a stress hormone, but people who described their homes as restful or organized had lower cortisol levels and reported feeling more in control. Now, I want to point out that this is just what people felt. So this is very personal. Like, this isn't like you could walk into someone's home and you could think it's messy. Please know I don't judge anybody. Like, if I walk into your home, we're friends. I'm not looking around your house and thinking it's messy or not. But let's say you walked into someone's home and you thought, this home feels kind of messy. But the person that lived there is like, oh my gosh, this is great. This feels fine. They don't describe their home as messy. Well, guess what? It's not raising their cortisol levels because we all have different clutter thresholds. So if something feels cluttered to you, it's raising your stress levels. If it doesn't feel cluttered to you, you don't even notice it and it's not affecting you. Right? So just know that it's very personal. There is no right or wrong. There is no level of stuff there's no tipping point for this stuff. It's whatever works or doesn't work for you. So organizing isn't about aesthetics. It's not just about aesthetics. I know obviously there are some aesthetics that come along with things being organized, but it's really about creating a space that works for you. And so here's the self-love piece. Organizing is a way of setting yourself up for success. So think about it. When you organize your kitchen so you can find everything you need, you make cooking easier for yourself. When you give your kids a designated spot for their backpacks, you make mornings less stressful. You make it easy for them to come in and unpack their things at the end of the day. It's also less stressful for them because they know what's expected. When you set up systems that actually support your daily life, you're saying, I matter. My time matters. My energy matters. That is self-love. Let's take one more quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about living with less as an investment in your future self. All right, welcome back. This last part, I want to talk about why having less actually gives you more. I know we've heard this platitude, but it really is true. We live in a world that tells us more is better. More clothes, more toys, more gadgets. But research shows that having too many choices actually makes us less happy. A study by psychologists Barry Schwartz and Sheena Iyengar found that when people were given too many choices, they felt less satisfied with their decisions, and they were more likely to experience regret. This is called the paradox of choice, and the famous study that did this was the jam study. So picture you're going into a grocery store and you're taste testing, right? There's always samples. I mean, we go to Costco. My daughter loves going to Costco on samples day because she likes to try all the different things. And so this is one of those experiments. You're walking in and you see a table in front of you and you have the option to taste different jams. Well, in one study or one part of this study, they had 20 different jam spreads in front of you and you could try any of them, as many as you wanted. And then in the other side, they only had 6 jam options. And so you could try any of those 6 that you wanted. And what they found was that the people that had fewer choices in jams, so those that had the option of tasting 6 jams, bought more jam and were happier with their decision than those that had the option to taste 20 jams. So those that had the 20 jams, they tasted more jams, but they were overwhelmed with the number of choices and thus didn't choose because it was just too much. It was too overstimulating. They were concerned that they weren't going to make the right choice. And so they just didn't end up buying anything. They froze. And so they chose not to make a decision at all. So isn't that crazy? Like, even I know we think that more is better and more choices is better and being able to have anything open to us is better, But what it does is it causes you to seize up and to not even, like, you just cease to function. You just choose, like, I'm just going to not choose because it's too much for me to even make that decision because I think I'm going to make the wrong one. And so you stay where you are and you stay comfortable and you stay in your cluttered house or whatever is keeping you stuck right now. So when you declutter and simplify, you're not depriving yourself. You are actually freeing yourself. It's like cutting the unnecessary noise so you can actually focus on what matters. And that's the ultimate love letter to yourself. So here's my challenge for you. Find one thing today, just one, that you can let go of. And when you do, take a deep breath and remind yourself, I deserve a space that supports my best self because you do. And try to make it something that isn't super easy. We're not just going to get rid of all the garbage sitting around in our house, right? Try to make it something where you're like, do I really need that? And have a moment to think about it and understand that you are giving yourself that space, right? You are giving yourself a space that supports your best self. All right, my friend, that is it for today's episode. I hope you walk away knowing that decluttering isn't just about cleaning. It is a form of self-care. So your action step for today is start in one place and find just a tiny little area and find at least one thing to let go of. Find one thing to release, big or small, and notice how it shifts your energy. If you love this episode, can you share it with a friend or tag me on Instagram with your decluttering win? I would love to cheer you on. I am at Wannabe Clutter Free on Instagram, or you can come over to the Facebook community. It's a private group we have over there. It's the Wannabe Minimalist Family Community, and we would love to chat with you there as well. And so thank you so much for joining us this week and making this show part of your weekly routine. Be sure to tune in next week. We're going to be talking with Gab Saper next week about your wardrobe and how to create a wardrobe that fits your style and your life, no matter what size you are or what stage of life you are in. It's a really fun episode, and we talk about decluttering our closets as well, which is always a big hit. I know that's always a challenge for a lot of people. So check out that episode. I think you're going to love it. Until then, take care, be kind to yourself, and keep making space for what truly matters, and know that you are very high up on that priority list. All right, I'm Deanna Yates, and you've been listening to Wannabe Clutter Free. I'll see you next week. Cheers.